girl that booked the other day, the girl that called me and was so pumped that she found our place. We have been posting every day consistently very similar videos for 4 months, right? We're getting tired of it because we see it every day consistently for 4 months. That girl called me ecstatic, over the moon, hired a babysitter, bought a special outfit, and booked our place directly from that post within 10 minutes of seeing it for the first time, right? Got my phone number and called me and to tell me about it, how ecstatic she was because she saw it for the first time. So like, if you think you've reached everybody, like good luck when you do, because it is going to blow your stuff up.
Welcome back to another edition of the Hideaways Show, Behind the Curtain. Where else would you rather be than with us on this fine Thursday morning? We've got Mr. Mike Sebastian tapping in from Louisville, Kentucky. How are the vibes out there in Kentucky this morning?
Dude, it's cold. It's finally cold, and I'm loving it. I'm so stoked. So
I am totally a throw a hoodie on type of guy.
Yep.
I had one on for this podcast. I'm like, I'll take the t-shirt off. Go with the Into the AM shirt, but it's cooling off, which is good. But I knew this. It was going to be extremely hot. We were going to have no fall, and it's going to go straight into snow. So I mean, it's just how it is.
Is it snowing?
It's not snowing here, but I was told Tennessee got 4 inches of snow yesterday. So I was like, they're like, did you get snow in Kentucky? I was like, I don't think so. I hope not.
Oh, we don't have anything down here. Thank goodness. Like, we couldn't handle that with the hot tub deck being down and rebuilt today. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, I'm like, I am not ready to deal with snow on the 16% grade hill. Like, just let's ease into getting the hot tub fixed and everything from the hurricane. Like, the hurricane was enough. Like, let's just relax for a second. It'll be
take a breath.
Yeah, but I'm surprised we're making good. I say we as if we're doing anything. We're making great progress on the rebuild on that bottom portion of the deck. I was in one day. Like, I would say 70% of it was done. Yeah.
I'm blown away.
Yeah,
that looks amazing.
It looks identical to what it was before. Like, I know they're building based on what they did before, but I was like, it's going to look different just because they're going at it the second time. I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's literally the same. It's the exact same build.
Yep. Yeah, I'm really impressed with it, with the work that they've done, and the fact that we were having a conversation about some of the changes to the hot tub that we need to do. And like, as you and I are talking, he just texted us and was like, I'm going to do all this. All right, there we go.
Yeah, timing on it's perfect. And I was like, do your thing, get this thing back up and rolling so we can keep getting people into the Stoic and get it rented. Yeah. So I'm super grateful for them and super excited for that to come back online, which is great.
Yep.
So, but
what do you want to go through today? I know we've got quite a bit going on. I'm interested at what you've chosen for our discussion here.
Yeah, nothing at all. I think we'll just call it quits, so we're good to
go. Done. Hot tub's up. We're in.
We're all about saving time.
Let's go build another deck.
Right. Side note, I have built a deck. They're really not that hard, but like, you appreciate what it takes to build a deck once you've built one. So the fact that they did that in a day, I was like, applaud. Like,
Jordan, I spent probably 40 minutes this morning looking up different styles of fencing for the russet. And the whole time I was looking it up, I was like, this is just screws and wood. I could go out there and do this. Like, why would I hire someone to do this? I've got a screwdriver. I got an impact driver out here, a bunch of screws. I could go out there and do this. And it's that age-old dilemma of, if I can do it, well, am I going to hire somebody? I'd be out there for a week. I'd come back and have a panic attack and die from the amount of tasks that I have overdue. Like,
I'm telling you, it's that itch you just got to scratch. Like, we tell ourselves all the time, like, let's find a who, not a how. Let's focus on what we're good at. But then it's like, but I wouldn't mind getting the hammer out and the screwdriver and the, building a fence would be kind of fun. But then, the moment you get out there, you'd forget the screws or you wouldn't find the right type of wood. And then it's just like,
or a guest calls and it's like, hey, I have an issue with the cabin. And it's like, oh, I got to go back to the computer like immediately.
Yeah. So we don't want to do that. But no, to answer your question, I was thinking about this the other day, and it wasn't imposter syndrome, but it's just this concept that I think a lot of people probably get hung up on, especially in the unique stays space, is the challenge of trusting the unknown, right? It's unique properties are unique for a reason. They haven't been done before. They're unlike anything else in the market. So with that comes a level of unknown. So how do you know a unique property in this market is going to do well? Obviously, there's other components that go with that, but you have nothing to compare against. you have no data to go against for that type of property. Sure, bedroom, bathroom count, you could go based on that. But like, what if people just aren't interested in that in your market?
Yeah.
How do you know it's going to perform well?
Dude, that's a good question. That's something we face all the time, because as we're adding things on and looking through some of these, the amenities, standard amenities that we do uniquely, and the more unique amenities that we have, it's like constantly asking each other, like, does this fit the market? Does this fit our clientele? Does it fit the guest avatar that we have at this specific cabin? And you're right. Like, the more unique we get, the less data there is to pull from. And it is a terrifying feeling.
Yeah. And I think what we've figured out, and I don't think it's foolproof yet, give us time, and then we'll come up with a system that'll be rock solid. But what we've learned is look across the country, look across different markets. And a lot of people will advise you when analyzing a market or a property, they're like, focus on your market, focus on your properties and your competitors and who you're going up against. And we do that. We do that to establish our baseline. But then when we bring in these unique components or unique properties, we have to look nationwide to see if we can't find similar properties. Yeah. Our comp base is a lot larger. And then what we do is we pull a larger subset of those comps and we say, okay, based on these 25 properties across 10 different markets, the average revenue and occupancy and all these numbers are this. And then what we do from there is we knock it down 10% to be conservative and say, okay, well, if we did 10% below average, would these numbers still work? Yeah. I mean, you could do 20% if you want to.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped us. I don't think that's going to be like, great, I'm going to make that amount of revenue, but it gives you an idea of the potential. And then it becomes very much your team, what you're capable of delivering and your skill sets to be able to execute on that property, that type of product. And a lot of that also comes down to marketing.
Yeah. I think like, to go even like a step further, the stuff that gives me confidence is going further than Zillows and Redfins and AirDNAs, right? Like, a lot of people that are looking particularly in the markets that we're in today, they're like, well, the online data doesn't support it. I'm like, of course it doesn't. Like, it's on paper and it's handshake deals and it's, it's very different. So being there, for one, just to see how it's going to lay out and learn a little bit about the market helps. I think the other thing that I've done a lot of is joining Facebook groups for your target market. It doesn't have to be a short-term rental or even a real estate group, but joining Facebook groups that your target market would be in. So, and a lot of people are like, well, I don't know my target market. That's your first issue, right? Go find your target market. Who are you building a 2-bedroom, 1-bath romantic cabin? Then your avatar is going to be couples, probably like middle-aged couples that are either dating for a while or newly married. For us in the cabin that we built with the rock and the boulder, that's exactly who goes out there. A lot of anniversaries, a lot of some honeymoons, a lot of proposals, things like that. So if you can find, wedding blogs, or if you can find dating advice, or if you can find places that your market will hang out, and then ask them questions. Is this something you guys would be interested in? Is this something you would actually visit? If you live in Colorado and this is in Kentucky, would you fly out there and stay here for the weekend, right? If you can get them on a Zoom call and ask face-to-face, that's even better. Where it's like, let's actually have them pick it apart, right? But the other part of that is that's one angle. That's one lens that you would use to evaluate that property. The other is like, I would back completely up and then go to another side and say, does it work without a hot tub? Does it work without, whatever? And try and prove yourself wrong. Like, actually try and look at it and say, oh no, this is a huge risk. This isn't going to work. The more times you can't prove yourself wrong and you're genuinely trying, but it's a boost in confidence every single time. And it's like, all right, well, I've talked to the people, I've found my market, I've looked at the marketing it would require, I've looked at the tourism, I've looked at the accessibility of the unit, I've looked at how easy it is to take care of, and I'm comfortable with all of it, then go for it.
Right. And I think what you can do, and I think that's perfect for your baseline and really understanding, like, from a bare minimum, bare bones perspective, would this work? And then from there, where it gets at least exciting for me is then stacking things on top of it to say, like, okay, well, what would happen if we added a pickleball court? It would cost this, and based on my analysis across markets, pickleball courts increase revenue at the property, or make X% more than other properties in that market. Therefore, I can project roughly that I would increase my revenue by this. And then you start stacking on these components. And if you're like, okay, well, what if I took the pickleball court a little bit further, right? Like, what if I don't know what else you would add within it, but like you add different components to the pickleball court to make that area unique. This would be a great area where you could use Chat GPT, use AI to reimagine that space to come up with an idea or a concept that is in fact unique. And I can tell you if it's if it's done well, the uniqueness and the amenities and the outdoor space and all that, people will come stay and they will book it. Now, if you just slap a pickleball court somewhere that doesn't make sense, you put a hot tub in an area that doesn't make sense, like it wasn't thought through, you're still going to get a bump, but you're not, it's not sustainable. Like
that's hard too. Cause like we were just talking before about like me putting a fence over at the Russet, and I'm looking at these fences and I'm like, good Lord, this is a sexy fence. Like this thing looks absolutely amazing. It doesn't look like it's going to be super expensive to do. And I went all the way down this rabbit hole. I was 15 minutes down this type of amazing black and like redwood, like this awesome looking horizontal privacy fence to frame in our yard and make it private. And then I popped open a picture of the cabin. I was like, this fence goes in like downtown Seattle. It doesn't fit the cabin at all. Right. So there's so many things to take into consideration with it to like make that. And I think that's like exactly like you're saying, like taking that and really like group sourcing that, asking friends, asking family, asking Facebook groups, asking anybody that'll listen to you, to be honest. And the feedback that you get is amazing. We put in our email this week, our guest email, put 2 cabins, an A-frame and a monoslope up. And I was like, if you guys had to choose between these 2 cabins, which would you choose and why? Right. And the responses that I got, they all chose A-frame, which support to you. Not all of them. There were a couple that chose monoslope, but the responses that I got for the why part were a lot different than what I would have thought. Right. Because my worldview is so limited to my set. Right. As much as I try and expand my thinking to what everybody else would think, it just doesn't work. So asking them is really good. But the things that we got are there's too many steps to the A-frame. Right. I can walk straight up to the monoslope. So immediately I was like, never would have considered that. Steps aren't an issue for me, but they are for a lot of people. Right. And then the other was there's no trees around monoslope. So they're very interested in the privacy and the seclusion, and everybody wanted more information and more photos and all that. But the initial feedback was very different than where my mind had originally gone. And I think for me personally, that's like the biggest confidence booster is, hey, I had a phone call with 100 people that said that they would do it. Right. I did hear someone once said that whenever you hold a focus group, make sure that you had the capability for them to purchase after, because you'll hold a focus group and everybody kind of wants to go with the norm, right? So if it's not one-on-one or they're not willing to give you feedback because they know that you like it and they're going to kind of sway towards the answer that you want to hear, they said the best way to find out if they're actually going to buy it, for those that say, I absolutely love it and I would rent it if it was available, then you say, well, here, it is available here. You can book right here. It's $500, right? And see what happens. Yeah, see what happens. So it's like, put it up on a direct booking link. See if they actually will go through and reserve the property, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. And the feedback about the stairs, like I always think about that. And there's components to these properties that you don't always think about, right? It's the stairs, it's the trees and seclusion. And some of that stuff I do think gets overlooked, or some people are like, trees don't matter. Stairs don't matter. Like they skip past all that because they are so excited to make this thing unique and add a pickleball court and add all these things to it, right?
Yeah.
But it all starts with the baseline and the basics. Like really think about what your ideal guest wants. And if they want privacy, taking a cabin in the woods and cutting down all the trees, 200 feet around the cabin, probably not a smart play. Even though it's tucked away, like it does at that point seem very bare and open versus, removing the necessary trees you need, but then really integrating it within the location it's in to attract that ideal guest. It's so smart. And I think that feedback is so obvious. Like they're telling us, don't chop the trees down or too many steps. Listen to that and implement that. But so with all of that being said, you can build all this stuff. You can do all the research in the world and come up with the right numbers. But then it becomes, okay, it's easy for us to say it on the podcast. It's easy for people to talk about it, put it in paper and run it by people like, will this make sense? But then the $1 million question becomes, Obviously, you can attract guests within your market, but will people travel from across the country to come stay at your place? I think that is a huge fear of some people, because that's a big component of unique stays. You are providing something that they didn't realize they needed, and now they have found it. Now, will they go from like, oh, that's really cool, I would love to go stay there, and then booking, versus just seeing it like, oh, that's really cool, like, scroll through social media, or wish list on to the next property with an Airbnb. How do you know? How do you get people to travel across the country?
So for our stuff, there's two things you said there. One is your target market, people within your target market. And I would challenge everybody listening, like if your target market is just Airbnb, right? If you're just on Airbnb, you're not going to do anything else. There's no social, there's no marketing, there's no push, right? Then your target market's very limited, and them coming there, they've already decided to come there. So are they coming there? Yes. Is your pool huge? No, right? Because you got all of Airbnb, which is a decent audience. And the first thing they're going to do is search, Red River Gorge, Kentucky. That cuts out 90% of Airbnb, if not more, right? So it limits it, but the intent is there. So can you pull people that are there? That's a whole different conversation than what you're saying now, Jordan, is, will people actually fly if they're in New York and they need to come to Red River Gorge or wherever it is, right? You're in Paris and fly across the world. There's the way that I personally dealt with that, like as we step into all this, is what is the drivability to the nearest big city around you? So most of our places right now, there's 2 that are in a big city, there's 3 that are in a big city, but the rest of them are within an hour and a half of 4 or 5 big cities, right? So what I look at is, are people currently driving to another destination? And would our destination be similar to that drive, right? So there's multiple millions of people that are driving from Florida and Virginia and North Carolina and Tennessee and Ohio and New York to go to Gatlinburg and Blue Ridge and all of these different locations. And we are either on the way or closer, or similar drive or closer than those locations. So that gives me the confidence that there are people out there that will do it, right? Are they going to fly from California and go out there? Maybe, maybe not. But if you have enough people in that drivability market, and those people are driving to go on vacation, right? That's good. So that helps a lot of like the Waco, Texas place, right? You don't have to be in Dallas. You just have to be drivable from Dallas to pull from that market to make it an easy yes. The other thing is, how close are you and how easy is it if you do fly in, right? So for our place in Red River Gorge, Lexington is 55 minutes away, and they rent cars in the airport. Right. So you could fly into Lexington, get a car, drive straight there, and be there in an hour. When I went on my honeymoon, it was in Asheville. We flew into Charlotte. Right. So I had a 5-hour drive out to Charlotte, got in a car, then had a 2.5 or 3-hour drive to go out to Asheville. It was very worth it for me. So are people willing to do it? Yes. Right. It's just a matter of finding out like how accessible is it? They're going to take their path of least resistance. So if they're comparing Asheville to Red River Gorge, maybe they'd go with the Gorge because it's just a 55-minute drive versus 2.5 hours once I get there. Maybe not, because there's less to do there, right? But looking at all of those factors and then asking people, I would honestly ask anybody, if you put an Instagram post up, hey, what do you think about this? And someone comments, say, will you jump on a call with me? I have a question about what your thought process was, and taking notes on all that. What I tell people is, if you talk to enough people, you cannot help but lean one way or the other. Even if you don't record it, you're going to say, my gut from the 100 people that I talked to, I feel like 75 of them said, yes, I would love to do that. And the drive is not an obstacle, and the flight is not an obstacle.
Hey guys, real quick, the only way we can continue to grow this show to bring on bigger and better guests is if you guys rate, review, and share the show. So if you could take 2 seconds and leave us a quick 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, it would mean the world to us. But even better than that, we'll be able to reach more real estate investors and help them build out their dreams through unique short-term rentals. Now back to the show. Yeah. I don't know why. It took me flashback to when we had our place in Texas. And it was this concept of the folks group. Yeah, I'm having nightmares right now just thinking about it. And this concept of you'll get a lot of people with your properties that'll say, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I can't wait to come stay. I had probably 20, 25 people say that to me. 0 came and stayed that said they would come and stay. Right. And my question to you is, Was that because the property itself wasn't, in your eyes, understanding my property in Texas, was it not accessible? Was it just people? Was it me not providing a link once they said like I would book? Was it more so me just being like, great, like it's on Airbnb, you'll find it, right? Or like, what do you think the reason why? I assume I'm not the only one. You get a lot of people that are like, oh my gosh, I want to come stay at your place, and then they never follow through.
Yep. I think it's easier to say, it's easier to be supportive. I want to be a good friend. Do you like my painting? Yes, I love your painting. It looks great, Jordan. It's like, will you buy it for $100? No, I'm not gonna buy it for $100. Like, doesn't fit my plan. For me, like I kind of did this with a friend the other day. I was like, she's in Tennessee. I'm in Kentucky now. It's the closest we've ever lived to one another. So I was like, we should trade visits. Like, that'd be awesome. You should come up here. She's like, what about November 15th? And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a lot going on. I didn't expect you to say yes, it's like I did, and I just didn't think it all the way through. And I think for that, it's like, are you actually gonna like load the family up in a car, drive out there, spend the week when you only have 1 week off? It's like, do I want to go to Texas just because my friend has a place, or did I want to go here and I've been putting that off for 4 years, right? So I'm going to do that. So then it's kind of not calculating the bandwidth of it. I think with this one, the example of like pull out the actual sale page or pull out the actual purchase link, that's typically done in e-com. It's like, yeah, it's less than $100. You could do it. You don't really have to think about it. For planning a vacation, it's like, yeah, you've got to really plan it out. That what might work is like a gift card. Hey, buy a gift card, go home and ask your family, and there is, right? For something like that. But I think you will get the general feel, right? If they don't book it directly, I think you'll get the general feel, and there's enough people out there that will have that same general feel after you've interviewed enough that you'll be able to get reservations. Yeah. Remember the girl that I told you about yesterday?
Oh, yeah. I do remember the girl you told me about yesterday.
Excited to go out there. Found out that she was looking for where in the world this place was, and found out it was an hour and a half from her house. So,
and we'll just say she was very excited to be able to go there and go there by herself. We'll leave it at that.
Hired a babysitter and everything. Like, kids are gone, she's out there. So,
hey, but I mean, like, I think that's the type of, maybe not that exact emotion based on what you told us, but it's that excitement for properties that I think you want to spark in people. And so back to the Texas thing though, and I think a lot of people, and don't be discouraged if you do have a lot of people with your property tell you like, hey, I'm going to come stay there and come book, and they don't. Because like you said, it with a vacation, there's a lot more to it than just saying, here, take my credit card. Let's go. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
So
there's the bias. Like if you say, hey, I'm really stoked on this place, I want your feedback on it. Right. They're not going to come in and be like, Jordan, this sucks. Like I'd have a hard time doing that. But if you say like, I'm really not sure, I'm on the fence, I'm thinking about leaning out, can you tell me like things you like and things you don't? And really give them that openness, hey, I haven't spent a penny on it. It's just an idea. Like, tell me what your thoughts are, and mainly the negative. I do that all the time with like friends and family where I'm like, I don't want you to say anything positive. If I did great, awesome, don't tell me. I only want the criticism so that I can get better. Kind of lean in that same direction there, but I interrupted. Sorry.
No, what I was going to say is I've seen a lot of investors like base their investment decisions off of that. I was like, well, I've talked to my family and they said it's amazing. Or I've talked to a group of friends or a group of people and they're like, the place is amazing. I would come stay there. And unfortunately, a lot of people are like, problem number one, if you're going to rely on friends and family to fill your calendar, unfortunately, you're going to be disappointed. And that's not the investment strategy you want to go with. But it sounds crazy. I talked to someone earlier this year that was their deciding factor, is like, well, I had a good amount of family and friends said they would come stay. So I think that can at least fill up a good amount of the year. And I'm just like, that's a bad idea. That's a recipe for disaster. So I wanted to get that point across. But the other one that I was thinking about is we're trying to attract people from across the country come stay at our place. And I think there are people out there today that have unique stays or places that stand out, but they are very much just listed on Airbnb and they have a direct booking site. If they had, I'm going to give you 3 options. Okay. I want you to tell me which you would do today if you were doing nothing else. You could post on social media about your property.
Okay.
You could launch an email marketing campaign for your property to fill your calendar, or you could run paid ads. Which would you do today that you would feel confident that has the potential to move the needle? I'm not saying it will, but has the potential to actually start to attract people from across country?
So that's tricky, because if it was today and I had nothing and I needed to fill my calendar this year, I would say yes. However, if I talked to somebody else that was coming from a realtor background and they were like, let's run ads, I'd be like, that's a great way to lose money. Don't do that. Right? Because I know how to do ads because I did it for a decade. My response to people when they have an Airbnb that's underperforming and they want to do some sort of marketing is ignore the next quarter and focus on the one after that. You want growth for 2 or 3 or 4 quarters out. So for long-term sustainable growth, social media and email are ways to go. Social media being primary, email being secondary, right? Social media is going to reach more. There's your target market typically for Airbnb and Vrbo is going to be on there for that vacation style experience. Now, there's a lot of caveats to that. If you have a wedding venue or something, it's obviously different. But social media is going to be the way to get there. I would say you don't own your social media list, right? If Instagram changes, TikTok gets banned in the United States, who knows? That disappears overnight. So your goal with social media is should be to get the awareness, the interest from that guest, and then transition them into an email funnel and talk to those individuals. However, if you're looking for reservations next week, that's not going to happen. Right? Yep. If you're looking for reservations next week, my advice to you is ignore next week and ignore next month and focus on 2, 3, 4 months after that. Figure out a short-term solution to cover those months. Figure out a long-term solution to get customers in. And that's where your organic social media, your free posting, and your email funnels are going to be.
See, I knew you could handle the off-the-cuff question like that, and you answered it exactly how I was hoping you would answer it. Is very much this concept of it's not an overnight thing. Like It's not posting one reel and you're going to fill a calendar. It's not sending one email with a 10% discount code that's going to fill your calendar. And by golly, it's not running paid ads is going to fill your calendar, because 95% of people, and I would be included in that 95%, do not know how to run paid ads. I had considered it at one point in time before I met you, and I'm like, I think I could do it. I am so glad I met you only for the paid ad reason. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But it's true. Like, there's so many people out there that are like, okay, social media, it's almost this instant gratification issue, right?
Yep.
It's like, what can resolve my issue today? Okay, social media probably could, but what I hear is it's a consistent long-term game. Don't want to do that. Email marketing, great. Like, I'll send emails out to people, but a lot of people typically say like it takes multiple touch points for someone to convert into actually being a guest or even a repeat guest. Great. Okay, well, paid ads reaches the most people and finds the people that are actually looking to book. Great, that's my way to go. And then they run paid ads and they get nothing for it, and they're like, well, I just spent $500, I just spent $1,000. Like, why I have zero, I have nothing to show for it. I think that's a lot of people's issues, is they are looking for that instant gratification, where it's very much a proactive long-term approach, and then stacking consistency with that is where you will then start to see the compounding effect of all of those efforts coming together.
Yep. And the consistency is the number one thing. Like, that is it. I've heard so many times in the marketing space, like, consistency is hard and it sucks at times, but there's so many people in the marketing space that are like, look, we're going to have a challenge to see who can get the most likes, comments, and shares over a period of time, or the most followers over a period of time. And a couple of the guys had gone viral, and they're like, look, I'm just going to do one post that goes viral. I'll beat you guys in everything, right? They do that one post, but they procrastinate until the end. They're like, I only need one. I got it. Like, whatever. They get to the end and it doesn't take off. It doesn't work. And the person who was consistent not only posted more and got more traction and awareness, but they also got better with every single post that they did. So by the time they got to the end, they had 4 or 5 viral posts that beat that one individual's failed viral post, 10 times over. So it's all consistency, and the more you do it, the more frequently you do it, the more consistently you do it, the more your audience is going to resonate, the more touch points you're going to have, and the more impact you're going to have, because you're changing your marketing, you're changing your videos, you're changing the way that you post. And that doesn't even take into consideration that TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of these platforms are going to continue to show you to more people, the more consistent that you are and the more feedback that you get from those engagements.
Yep. And I think this all comes back to this concept of the unknown. And I think the solution for, overcoming this challenge of the unknown, and will people book and will people come stay, and will people book my place? It all comes down to consistency. It does with everything. It's consistency, trusting yourself, and sticking to the process, not jumping ship, not, building a unique space and then not wanting to spend money on all the other things that you did the research on that would increase your revenue. It's, posting, twice on Instagram and being like, oh, well, I'm not getting the direct bookings like Jordan and Mike told me. I'm going to stop doing that. Or I sent 3 emails out. I got no one, my click-through rate was like 0.000001. Like, I'm not going to do this. This stuff doesn't work. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to slowly see that growth, but you need to trust that process will in fact work. And like I said, all of that eventually comes to the head. It's so easy for me to say it on this podcast that just do it. Just do the reps. Be consistent. Do what it takes from a marketing perspective, and you will benefit from it. It's easy for me to say that. It's so much more difficult when we get off this podcast and someone goes out there and tries to do it. Sticking to it and finding time, understanding you're gonna suck at first. I promise you, whether it's social media, whether it's email marketing, whether it's whatever it may be, you're gonna more than likely suck at it right out the gates. But you're gonna get better slowly but surely, and that will lead to more people seeing your place, more people being attracted to your place, and more people booking your place.
I have 3 questions for you on this.
Oh no.
Yeah. 1, pop quiz. How many, our first pinned Instagram post, how many comments are on that post right now?
Our first pinned one on the profile?
Yeah, the main one. On Discover the Hideaways.
I'm thinking I looked the other day. I think it's around like 6,000 maybe?
5,440 right now.
Yeah.
5,441. So my second question is, how confident were you when you started the Discover the Hideaways Instagram that you would be able to get a viral post or a post with 5,000 comments on? It's reached almost 1 million people, or over 1 million people. It's got 100,000 likes on it. It's got over 5,000 comments of people sharing it. So I want to know, when you did your first post on there where you're like, this is going to crush it, I'm going to do it, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to quit.
No, I knew when I went to post the first one, I was like, my mindset was like, it was almost this sense of accomplishment. Like, I did it. Like, I posted something. I got something out there. And I guarantee you, go look at our first post. You can be, it's cringe-worthy. Like, and I go to anyone, go to the Cliffs at Hocking Hills, their first post. They got like 600,000 followers now. Look at their first post. Cringe-worthy. But you know what they did that 98% of the other people will not do? Is they were willing to post the cringy one initially, knowing they would
get through it.
Embrace the suck, knowing you're going to improve down the line.
So my next question is, one of the cabins that we post the most of on there is the Stoic, right? Do you know what our direct booking to Airbnb to Vrbo reservation percentages are for next month?
I know it's more than it was before. We were at 10% direct, I think, for across all of our cabins.
4 months ago. Yeah.
4 months ago. Yep. If I had to guess, are we 40%?
We are. I'm going to pull it up to make sure that I'm speaking truth here. I was talking about it to someone yesterday. So for November of 2024, we're recording this in October, we have 1 Hostaway direct reservation, which is an influencer that you put in. Mm-hmm. Every other reservation, every single one, is direct booking.
Seriously?
100%. We have no Airbnb and no Vrbo for November. We're at over 50%. Yeah. And we're 90% booked. We're 90% booked for the month. So that's not like, oh, we have 3 reservations and one of them you put in. We have 1 influencer that you put in through the platform. Yep. Every single other reservation is direct. Right now, this month, we're 84% booking or direct booking. And then we have 1 Airbnb and 1 Vrbo. So 8% and 8%.
I haven't looked that closely.
Yep.
And I'm acting surprised, and I promise this is a genuine reaction. Our goal was eventually to get to this level.
Yep.
And I think you don't know how long it's going to take. Yep. Yeah. I thought we were probably another 6 months before we got to that, because it was just going to gradually grow. But it's one of those where you don't know the answer to that. It could have been 2 months ago. It could have been 12 months from now.
Yep.
But it's sticking with it. It's that consistency. It's replying to comments. It's replying to DMs. And it's, I think it correlates with how many people are asking for the link in the comments, and we're replying with the link, also telling them like, hey, just look in the bio because it's literally just up. It's right here. But also people that are reaching out and be like, I want to book for this date. How do I book? Like they have a date in mind. They're just like, give me the link for how I want to book. And it wasn't like that initially. We weren't getting any comments. No. We were getting the same DMs from the same people that were like, love your cabin. And I appreciate the loyal followers and the loyal people that are doing that. But they weren't booking. They were just like, great place, or they would share it. Like they were always doing that.
But that's also, I want to say the heavy lifting of that, correct me if I'm wrong, heavy lifting of that was 4 or 5 months ago. That's when we started like really just drilling and being consistent. So when people ask about the confidence, how do we know? It's unique. There are no comps none of my normal systems work, right? The first thing I would say is come buy our system because we're selling it and it's a lot better in terms of uniqueness and revenue and avoiding Airbnb bust. However, one of the pushback questions that I have is, are you going to do it? Right? You don't need to be confident in that house. What you need to be confident, like the numbers, and do your stuff. As long as it's going to break even, that's great. But if you're going to consistently push it, right? There are more people in the world than will ever book your place. Like I promise, you'll never reach 100% of world population, right? So all you've got to do is make sure that there's enough people that are aware of that property and can come in and book it. Like if you're confident in yourself to sit down and do the grit work and grind through that, get it. You know? So
I'm trying to remember what I was gonna say here, but it is just crazy, right? To think that we are getting to this point where people are in fact asking left and right. Like I guarantee you, right? I have to shut my notifications off at night because we're getting so many people that are commenting, sending us DMs, liking, following, things like that. Like we're growing like crazy. And we mentioned something the other day within our training group around social media. And it's this concept that you need data to go off of, as you do with most things. So that's where when you are posting initially, you don't have a lot of data to go off of. You don't know what's working well, what are people engaging with, what are people not. You haven't gotten integrated in the algorithm. So where that's the consistency, that's the initial step to get you into the game, right? You're not even in the game yet. You're just doing the reps. But once you're in the game, you'll start to realize within your specific profile and your specific properties what works. And this is what we were telling our training group was, you act like every single post no one's ever seen it before. And what you do is you go back and you look at your data and you're like, what post performed well? And a perfect example, we did this just a week or so ago. That 4 million view post that has the thousands of comments, that hundreds of thousands of likes and shares. I was like, I'm curious to know if it was the video, the audio, or if it was the hook. You have 48 hours here, no phones, no interruptions, who you bringing? Like, was that what attracted people enough? So you know what I said? Let's just do it with the A-frame and let's use the same caption, just different content, a different song, same copy. Now, did we get 4 million views? No. Now, granted, it can take off any time. I think that post took 2 or 3 weeks before it really started taking off. But I think you'd have to look through. I don't know if you have Instagram pulled up, but I think that post is up to like maybe 50,000 views and, a few thousand comments, a few thousand shares. If you see it, hold me true to my numbers. But
first Christmas comes to mind. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. We've got. I don't know how to see everything. You're the social guy. I don't know how to see everything as good as you can.
Yeah. So let me look.
It says here it's got 166 comments and 3,815 likes so far.
Say those numbers again?
3,815 likes and 166 comments. If I'm looking at the right one.
That's a different one. I found it. So it's 56.3 thousand views, 1,800 likes, 75 comments, 1,900 shares. Now it's by no means 4,000, but just for comparison to other posts, on average, we do about 3,000 to 5,000 in views.
Yeah.
And that video, I did the exact same concept of you get to stay here for 48 hours, no phones, no interruptions. Who are you inviting? It worked. It did well again. And it's this concept of finding what works and just keep repeating it. Keep just hammering it home. Once you find out what that is that works for your account and your properties, keep doing it. There was this
the girl that booked the other day, the girl that called me and was so pumped that she found our place. We have been posting every day consistently very similar videos for 4 months, right? We're getting tired of it because we see it every day consistently for 4 months. That girl called me ecstatic, over the moon, hired a babysitter, bought a special outfit, and booked our place directly from that post within 10 minutes of seeing it for the first time, right? Got my phone number and called me and to tell me about it, how ecstatic she was because she saw it for the first time. So like, if you think you've reached everybody, like, good luck when you do, because it is going to blow your stuff up.
Yeah, it really will. And to the point of posting the same thing over and over again, I can't remember what the account is. If I find it, I'll put it in the show notes. It's his account. She uses the same, and I'm not saying like similar clips. She uses the same clip to open every single one of her videos for her STR properties. Same clip every single time. It's one that like pans the kitchen that goes out into their outdoor space. It's the same clip. Then after that, everything's different and the text is the same. But you go to their account, like you scroll through, it's the same. And a lot of people will be like, well, why would you do that? Because everyone's going to see it and they're going to say the same thing. Like your first clip's the same. But the majority of people that see your video typically are not followers. And if they liked it once, they liked it twice, they liked it 3 times, what's to say they're not going to like it the 4th, the 10th, the 20th, the 100th, the 500th time you post it? If it works, it works. Keep doing it. Take your bias, take your thoughts and opinion of what you think, people are going to think about your post and your content and throw it out the window because...
Sorry, go ahead.
I get hyped on this. The last thing, and I'll let you chime in, is there's so many people that get in their own head and they start thinking it's like, oh, well, people are looking at my account and people are realizing I'm posting the same content. They realize I'm using the same clip. They realize I'm reusing that caption. And with that, one, no, they're not, because unfortunately people are busy. And as bad as this sounds, nobody is worried about you, right? They're very much worried about themselves and everything else they got going on. Now, maybe you get a super fan out there that follows you and knows all your stuff. Far and few between. No one cares about what you're doing from the perspective of you repeating the same content and the same text. No one, they're worried very much about
it's
themselves.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Like I see it every day and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's very similar. I see the same thing every day. However, it's beautiful. I love seeing our properties.
Yep.
I'm proud of that. So like if they're seeing it as something extra, something new that they've never been to, like that's exciting still.
Yeah, so, exactly. And if they like it, why would you stop providing them something they like? It's as simple as that.
And it works. I can show you in our numbers right here, the trend of direct bookings. Like we have just pushed Airbnb and Vrbo completely out, right? No offense to them. They're fantastic platforms. I love using them. But if we can get all direct, even better. So I will seek you like on the topic of confidence, right? To end on the topic of how do you increase your confidence in this unique space. The process that I would say, right, is giving us the most confidence is stair step in, right? So amenity stack or unique stack into this uniqueness, right? So you take your cabin or you take your house, continue to make it more and more unique. You put up a fence, you put up a mural, a graphic wall, unique hot tub installation, like whatever it is you want to do, you will get so much confidence in the revenue that you see from those increases that you will want to go do a completely custom thing. But what's even cooler is if you do these things that we're talking about here on social media, when you do your second one, you already have a social following, right? So you're not starting from, zero ground level. I mean, you really will if it's a unique build, like you have to start at ground level. But that being said, you can fill up your entire, first month, first year, first week, whatever it is that you have with your social, if you build that on that same social channel and then get them in. So the process it's grunt work in the beginning, but it gets easier and easier in your confidence level as you continue to add these unique aspects to your place will go through the roof. Like you'll start to get that feeling of how to do it and it'll get easier and easier and you can't turn it off. I'll say Jordan and I text each other nonstop. We're like, look at this, we need to do this. Like I sent you a huge fluffy couch this morning that was like, we need to build a barn dominium around this couch. So
I looked at that this morning and I was like, that's totally AI. I don't care if it's AI, but it's AI. I'm like, hey, we just need a barn dominium and then we get a giant fluffy couch.
Court said like a week ago, she's like, our couch isn't comfortable and it's Brendan. And I was like, I sent it to her this morning. I also told her that since we live in Louisville now, I want to get horse pictures on the wall. And she's like, no, we're not going to get those. And so I was like, I will abandon the horse pictures on the wall, and I will give you a new couch if it can be this big fluffy couch that we can put in the middle of our house.
Dude, the thing was massive. I'll tell you right now, it would be super comfy as well. But two things before we go. One, the barn dominium concept. Well, that's a story for another day. I'm telling you, I saw one out in Colorado. I think I sent it to you on Instagram. Unbelievable. Fully like open concept. I think there's something with the barn dominium that we could do that could like almost just like a pole barn, but like a fully decked out pole barn, tinted windows, all that stuff with a view. I know monoslope and A-frames do well.
Yeah.
I got a decent idea that this concept of a barn dominium could really crush it. So
I'm in. I'm in already. I want a barn dominium so bad.
Dude, it's one day, I promise. Yeah. It's going to happen one day. But you know what's crazy? We started this conversation talking about, you know, the unknown, and I think it's happened a few times on this podcast. You know what we always revert back to eventually in some form or fashion, whether it's just for a little bit or for 20 minutes, is the power of social media to grow your property. And it sounds, I think a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say it. Make your place Instagrammable, build an Instagram presence, build a social media presence. People just kind of like look at me like, yeah, that's not going to work. Like what social media, like what's that going to do for my property? I need to worry about my revenue management, my reviews, and my listing photos, which you do. Don't get me wrong. You do. Yeah. You do. Yeah. But do not sleep on the power of social media. I promise you, once it starts working and take off, it's almost like a drug. Like you just need more and more and more, and you just see the benefit of it. And then you have the keys to the kingdom. You control how your place gets booked, what price. At that point, then, if people are finding you on social media, last bit on social media here, they're not going to Airbnb and shopping prices. Now, sure, they may go poke around and see what other cabins are priced at. But if they like your place enough and your place is $600 a night, they're going to pay it. They're not going to go look and be like, oh, well, there's another cabin that's $300 because they're on Airbnb and it's all right in front of them.
Well, and what's cool is you have limited supply. You only have for that cabin, your occupancy is 365 days, right? Nobody else is going to get more. It's less than leap years. So it's literally like that person that books direct at $600 because they love the place boots out the person who's searching on Airbnb for $150 place to rent. And I will say, like, we range from $118 to $730 every night, right? So yeah,
you can never answer people too. Like, what's your price? Like, unlike some of the traditional Airbnb people, $225. $225. What about weekends? $225. Holidays?
Yes,
$225. Like the price fluctuates, but So what I'm trying to say, social media, go all in on it, and if you're interested, shoot me a message, send me an email, jordan@hideaways.co. I can help you with their social media, and I can even show you a few things. I think it would be very beneficial, and just looking underneath the hood of what it actually takes to get this thing to take off. I promise you, the investment in knowing what it takes to do that, and then the time investment and commitment of doing it consistently will pay off. And I guarantee if you do it and you stick with it, you'll come back and thank me in 6 months and be like, thank you so much for showing me how to do this, because it in fact works. It works. And we kind of went through and stumbled through it initially, and we are learning components and pieces from these other big properties that have done it so well. And it all comes down to consistency and quality content. Get those two things out there. I guarantee it'll eventually take off. So, all right, Mike. Well, I know we got a lot of things going on, so that does it. Another amazing episode of the Hideaways Show, Behind the Curtain edition. So today, trust the process, do the work, get the reps in, and eventually it will pay off, resulting in fully booked calendars. I'm Jordan Holmes. He's Mike Sebastian. Until next time, take care, everyone.